There's a very crucial thing someone said during Corona times. Let the world remember that when everything was shut down, all of you turned to art.
Have you found a sweet spot where it's working, where you can say theater is actually working, theater can pay my bills?
We already have a good product, but how does that good product make us money?
And for a long time, theater has not been that place. It will not pay you the money you want it to pay you, but it will give you something that you cannot find anywhere else.
We already grew up with an entertainment culture,
Yes.
Yeah.
and then we killed it.
Yes.
I think the creative economy is the biggest employer, and it can employ well over close to 50% of our population.
When your dad creates a path, you will always surpass the path the dad created.
So even as we think about all of these things and as we want growth for theater and for film, the government also has to be serious about it.
Do not struggle to leave a legacy. Struggle to do the right thing.
Yeah.
The legacy will create itself.
CEOs, we'll get back to the conversation shortly. Now, I quickly want to recognize our incredible partner for the next few episodes. This show is very personal to me, and I always want to bring you guys the best production quality and bring you the most inspiring of guests. And to achieve this, sometimes we need to work with like-minded partners who share in our vision. I am continuously astounded by companies that have been running for over a century. Like, how do you keep that legacy, that continuity, that culture going? This is something I deeply admire. Now, our partner, the company has been running for over 200 years. Ladies and gentlemen, Johnny Walker. As business owners, we want to build companies that will outlast us. I see a lot of similarities between Johnny Walker Blue and becoming CEO in that we both want to celebrate achievement, growth, and the journey of becoming the best version of ourselves. Johnny Walker Blue, just like the guests we bring on this show, is defined by one, depth of flavor, like the bold character of a visionary leader. Two, depth in character, shaped by experiences. Just like every great CEO is forged through challenges and triumphs. Three, depth in heritage, just like the paths of the world's most influential leaders. And four, depth in complexity, where each layer tells a story. Just like every decision made by a CEO builds towards greatness. Like every leader we bring to our show, Johnny Walker Blue is not just a drink. It's a symbol of mastery, wisdom, and ambition. Now let's get back to the conversation. Classmates mko fiti. So this is like one of the newest segments tunaita Film Moderates. The reason I'm doing this is because I get to sit in very interesting panels and conversations. So najua tumeza ile one-on-one class with one guest, but over time I'm realizing I want there's certain conversations where I need a group of people. I mean, it's more fun, yeah. And for this conversation, it's a very personal and very favorite topic of mine, which is theater. I started off as an actor on stage, and it's my first love because I believe theater is the actor's thing. It's the actor's place. Yeah, so let's not discuss theater. And there's just a new slew of theater companies that are coming up in Kenya, and they're doing things so differently. And I'm so excited. I've been going for a lot of shows, and I can't wait to have conversations with some of the greatest leading that pack. And we have Queen Gadoni, Kofiti. Manze, what do we call this? What you're wearing?
Fashion.
It's fashion.
Yeah, it's a jumpsuit.
It's a jumpsuit.
Yes.
Yo, sijui inanikumbusha tu time fulani. Tukiwa high school, kuna maboys walikuwa kwa lugha, and then nyuma ya look ilikuwa transformer ikalipuka. So I'm just wondering kienda kwa wash. Transformer ilipuke.
Well, sisi hapo na kwa washroom. Kivaa hiyo wendi kwa washroom.
Oh, wendi kwa washroom.
Unaiva for a short time.
For sure. Okay. Apologies.
Okay.
Nick, such a clever way to be told, keep this interview short.
What? No, what do you mean?
Gadoni is like, yeah, you've seen the dress.
Yeah.
Like,
We're good.
Yeah.
Man, uko fiti Buddha? Yeah, you're doing some amazing work. I think the last 2 years, what you guys have been doing with Chronic Productions,
yes,
and yourself with
yes,
baby girl, baby mama nani?
AC.
Yes. Uko fiti?
Yes.
Thanks a lot for coming through. I don't take this for granted. First of all, wacha wase waanze kuwajua. Just introduce yourself, what you do. Yeah.
My name is Gadhoni Kemoyo. On the internet, you can find me at Queen Gadhoni. The people who know me from 15 years ago know me from screen. The people who know me now know me from the internet and theater. I'm a theater producer, I'm a script writer, I'm a content creator, and I'm a culture change maker.
Oh, amazing. Yeah, let's see if you can top that in.
Come like sasa. I seem to be very little. My name is Nick Kwach.
Yeah.
Kwach is an actor, principally, producer. I write as well. Oh, there's actually one script we once ever workshopped together. I don't know if she remembers. Long time ago.
We also worked on, what did we work on together? I can't remember.
Yeah, we did.
We
Yeah.
things together, yes.
Yeah, and if I'm not on screen, I'm majorly in theater.
Okay.
Yes.
Bro, kumbe una akili. Manzo umesemea CV jo.
Natembeanga huku nje ni kama
hapa kwa internet streets mtu yangu atukujui hivyo.
No, I realized actually that especially a lot of these people in comedy, you'd be shocked.
Yeah.
How much brain it takes for them to be like as stupid as they are.
Okay, trust me. Humor and comedy needs a lot of intelligence.
Yeah.
That's something I don't know, people don't realize.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like
Yeah.
just the power of observation and just converting that to be funny. Queen Gadhoni, she didn't mention, is the producer and part of the team that brings to you Too Early for Birds, and they just recently just wrapped up on Tomboya. I think one of the bestest shows in this country.
Thank you.
Good
It's
job.
an honor.
Manze, lakini nani akona swara kwa timu yenu because of
Hawataki tumalize hii
But I think every time nasemanga this is it, it's a wrap.
Yeah.
So this time a whole theater
I'm
kulinyesha.
telling you, natural disaster, there's nothing we could have done about it. But I think it's also, it's a blessing in disguise because the number of people who are actually on the internet saying, I'm really happy that happened because I'm going to be available for the next dates.
Wow.
So the grace from the audience to even tell us, it's fine, you don't have to send us back our money. Just tell us the date, we're going to come.
Wow.
Has been, it's been, the audience has been so gracious and we're so grateful.
Let me tell you, if there's something I really study is how you've built your community. Because you have conversations with them like Nika bro Nasi's home and the quality of the people that come for your shows. Wacha ni name drop kidogo, just you know. Yeah, just before you guys came in for this conversation, I was hosting Honorable Mata Karua.
Ooh.
And she was just talking about Too Early for Birds and Tomboya. She's like, I have to go for the next show. I missed the last one. I have to go for the next one.
Yeah.
And how did you go about building that community?
Well,
How
I'd
might
say...
you hopes? Actually, let's start from the beginning. How does Too Early for Birds come about?
So we have Abu and Gatia, who are the originators of the idea. And initially they came to me with an idea of a TV show. And we shot a pilot, went to workshop, wrote a script, shot a pilot. At the time, I was deep in television, so I'm knocking every door trying to get this pilot to every station.
Yeah.
Excuse me. And every station said, oh, this is such a good show. Some people called it too elite. Others couldn't match up the budget. Like, it was just something. It was just something in every TV station. And I went back to Abu and Gati and I'm like, yo, guys, nimejaribu, nothing is happening. So I'm sorry, we tried. We have a good product. Maybe one day it will work out. Then a few months later, they come back to me. They're like, oh, so we've decided instead of this show being on screen, why don't we put it on stage?
Right.
And I said, oh, okay, that's a great idea. But from where I stand, I know absolutely nothing about stage.
Oh, for real? You've not
Yeah.
you've never done stage?
No,
Prior to that?
my
Interesting.
my background is screen, and it's screen through Naomi Kamau, through mother-in-law. When I first met her, and she was just about to start writing Machachari.
Right.
So then I write Machachari. I finish Machachari. I produce a few shows for Ken TV, and then I do Cook Studio Africa, and then theatre. So when Abu and Gatia came to me and I said to them, I truly do not know anything about theatre. And they were like, oh, but you have contacts for media, so you can do our media and PR. I was like, okay, cool. That doesn't sound like a hard job. So I took up media and PR interviews. All I needed to do was call my friends who were on TV and radio at the time and newspapers. And I remember that show selling out in a week. Whoa. Because the marketing was so nice and seamless, and the media worked so well. And then the following year, 2018, they called me on the side and they were like, so we've decided, you're good at media and PR, but we'd want you to produce the next show. I'm like, my first thing as a producer always is, how does this thing make us money? More than, so we already have a good product, but how does that good product make us money? And so one of the things I remember changing and wanting to change for Too Early for Birds was to stage 5 shows as opposed to what they used to do before. They had done 1 show, they had done 2 shows. So the money wasn't making sense. And so 5 shows was what would make sense. And I remember most of the people saying 5 are too many. We might not even be able to fill up all of them. Like, there's only one way to find out. And I remember starting the process and the shock that the money has to come from you.
We were discussing this na Nick before. Unajua msanii unafikiria kuna pesa.
Kuna pesa mahali amekungojea tu hivi. Uende uchune, ukuje weke kwa show. But you see, my background being TV, I'm arriving at a set that has everything planned and budgeted for. Now I'm arriving on a set where I'm the one who has to figure out where the money is coming from. At this point, I don't have people to call for interviews. Now is a show, and we have to run the show. And I remember one of the things, I took advantage of the fact that I'm really good with people. And I remember making a call to the Kenya National Theatre at the time. And I said, I would like the Kenya National Theatre for a rehearsal space, but we'll be rehearsing between 6 a.m. to 9 a.m., which means no one is using the auditorium between that time. So we got the auditorium for free for rehearsals. So then I was like, okay, that is one thing of the budget. So one of the things I kept learning is that I would have to constantly lean on my contacts to be able to produce this show with 0 budget. I remember it was also the first time we got Coca-Cola to give us water for rehearsals and show day. They just piled crates and crates of water for free. So my beginning of producing theatre also taught me that not having money doesn't mean you can't have a good product. There's just a way to work out the journey and be able to stage the show. Yes, so 2018 was the first time I produced my first theatre show, which was an all-women show, Brazen. And that's a show actually Martha Karua attended. Martha Karua, Martha Kome, the late Lona Irongo, the late Muthoni Nyanjiro, the granddaughter of Jivanji, who also died, I think, like 3 months ago. So there's been the grace of audience, but there's also been a great learning process and knowing that, yes, there isn't this glamorous or all of this loose money in theatre, but there's a way to make it work. Yes.
Crony production. Mlitoana wapi? First of all, mkiwa wanne hivyo kwanza mkikaa chini mnaongeanga vitu serious.
Tukikaa chini tunaongeanga vitu serious. I think maybe that's why as a result vitu serious zinaweza kufanyika. But sisi tuko na background ya theatre. In fact, it's interesting to hear Gadoni is the first I hear who traveled the other way around. It's always theatre to the screen. But that still works. So the Crony is a group of 4. Myself, there is Dennis Ndenga, there is Victor Nyata, and then there is Osoro. The 3 of us, that's me, Osoro, and Nyata, we met tukifanya set books.
Story ya kila msanii.
So I hear these stories and I don't have these stories.
You see,
trust me, you miss nothing.
There's nothing you miss. You missed suffering. That's the only part. No, but yeah, we traveled with Allure. Allure David for, I think Mimi was there for 3 years. The rest might have been there for longer. And then we just built a relationship. So now when we left, strangely, Ndenga had also been there before.
Yes.
He just left right before we came in. So we leave, I think this is in like 2013 when I was leaving. And then when I come out and start trying to find opportunities huku nje sasa ya theater here, I find Heartstrings. And by this time we are finding Heartstrings, Ndenga was co-directing his first Nini as a director, play as a director. So we meet there, we stay in Heartstrings for I think 3 years or thereabout. So, and then I think it just gets to the natural state of things where you're like, na feel kama kijana amegrow. Na feel kama kijana. So we stayed out for like, I think more than a year, like a year or two. By this time, Osoro and Nyata were already in the, because together they also have their Mkisi thing going on.
Okay.
So together they had already started feeling the urge to put up a public show. So eventually they call us, they tell us, niaje kujeni bana, tufanye kitu.
Right.
So we go, we become directors of the show. And we direct the show, and our first show, which was at the theater, we were so scared, we just did one show.
Okay.
And there were more people outside than in. On our first show.
Wow.
It's crazy. I think it's just the thing about building an online community, and then these people are willing to support you, and then they're looking for any opportunity they can come through for you, because they watch your clips for free.
Yeah.
So now they get this chance, they come to the show, and we're like, wow, this thing is bigger than I thought it would be. Why not put up another? And then after a while, Corona comes, there are no more shows at the theater. There are no more performances. No one is doing anything.
Yeah.
So we kept having people texting us and asking us, because the four of us tulijulikana from Heartstrings as well. So people are asking us, Heartstrings mnafanya show lini? Mnarudi lini? They didn't know by this time we are already like a year out.
Yeah.
We have not done shows there for over a year. So now we're like, situwekeni show.
Yeah.
Kwani mbona tusiweke show? And then we warm up to the idea. Then 2022 we decided to put up our first show in January.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Wow. You are brave.
Imagine we
January.
did.
Wow.
We put up our first show, and I think, I don't know, maybe it's Grace and I, maybe it's Nini. We sold out our first show.
Nice.
Wow.
Our very first show. Yeah.
Wow.
And that was amazing for us. And kitu ilikuwa natuambia at that point that tuite majina wale wazito watatusaidia kuuza issue. Wazito walikam rehearsal, and then after 1 week ya rehearsal wazito wakatuambia hii kitu hii kitu ni poa. Hii show ni kali. Hii show ni kali. Sijui mtaifanya na nani, but ni kali.
Wow.
But show ni kali. So we had done posters, tumeshatoa nini, tumeshaambia watu watakuwa. We called ourselves to a meeting, tukajiuliza, sasa tutafanyaje kitu? And we were like, by the way, sisi tuko. Let's do it. Sisi wenye tuko, let's do it. Let's get a couple of other friends, join together, and we did it. Now I think we are like 15 shows later.
Nice.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, man.
It's
quite
been
a
a nice
story.
journey, yeah.
Hey,
It's been a nice journey.
nakumbuka hata mkiwa kwa streets
Yeah.
sell by any means necessary.
I think for us, and maybe when artists do things, they do not know who they are inspiring.
Yeah.
You do not know how the group friendship of Phil, Abel, Njugush, and the others were inspiring people like us.
Yeah.
Because we are seeing you and we are like, they're doing it. These guys hatujaona mali ingine wameenda. Cinema ndio hii inauzwa kwa street. Nini ndio hii inauzwa kwa Instagram. Show ndio hii inaseliwa out kwa Instagram. And we are like, why? We can do it as well. Let's try and do it. And now we are also happy that others are coming to us and telling us the same story that nyinyi tumeona mkifanya, acha sisi tufanye. So it's
amazing. Why is theater so addictive? Man, yani I've been off theater. maybe 15 plus years, but like deep inside, I know I have to go back and do stage, but and I always say, I think this year there was a viral clip of Denzel of later naongea
Asi lazima fanya media kwa sababu ya Gladiator.
No, but I think but he's always had movies. No,
Yeah.
I think Denzel is giving the vibes of retirement.
nikubali.
Ni ile tu ya
Lazima
wacha
uonekane.
niongee
Lazima
mwisho.
uze.
Lazima uze.
But he said he put it so well that theater is the medium for actors,
Yeah.
while film is a theater for, for filmmakers.
Yes.
And it's so true. I think as a performer, the
Yeah.
best place ni kukua kwa hiyo stage. There's just something about being on stage and
Yes.
that raw energy from guys. And why do you think it's so addictive for you?
I think-
And why theater is so important?
Yeah, there has always been, I think, two kinds of conversations about theater for me.
Yeah.
One, it's about the money, because as an artist, it is
do
both
it.
your passion and your profession.
Yeah. For
So
sure.
it means this is what needs to pay your bills. And for a long time, theater has not been that place where you are either satisfied with a little or keep complaining about the little as well.
Yeah.
But I changed my mind about that and learned that sometimes, where do artists go to train? A footballer goes to the pitch to train. Kuna watu wanaenda Hell End kucheza ball. Kuna watu wanaenda City Stadium kutrain. See match day, kutrain. Keep themselves in it.
Yeah.
So that you're ready for the next derby.
Yeah.
You're ready for the next whatever big game you'll be playing. I feel like for me, theater is that place where you keep jogging. You keep jogging, and as you're keeping jogging, it's unlocking something both in you and the people you're telling your stories. It's where you're paying your dues as an actor. That it will not pay you the money you want it to pay you, but it will give you something that you cannot find anywhere else. That's why I think theater actors really feel that.
Yeah.
But if you're not careful as well, theater you can be a prisoner of your passion. Because there are so many people who get tied to a place where the bottom line is not being met, but I keep here no matter what.
Oh, goodness.
So hajaribu ipande wapi hang'ang'ani kufanya hiyo. And the reason why it's addictive, it's because the dopamine effect ya stage. Sidhani kama kwa msanii unaweza replace na kitu.
Right.
Yeah.
Ile effect tu ya instant action reaction. Nimekaa hapa nasema na ndio huyu. Like mahaters wako hapa na mafans wako pia wako. Like they're watching you live. It's always a very interesting rush. Yeah.
Do you share the same sentiments? Because I mean, there's more money, let's say, in TV of
Yes.
Yeah.
film or ads.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you still see artists going back to theater.
Yeah. So for me, seeing as I'm an upside down thespian, for lack of a better word.
For sure.
Upside down.
Yes, upside down.
Yeah.
So for me, one of the things I constantly looked at when I was doing TV, and I did a lot of TV commercials at some point in my life. And there was, I cannot say, and as a creative producer, I cannot say TV was growing me, especially because I was constantly contracted and not doing my own work.
Yeah.
So then, as a scriptwriter and as a creative producer, there's always that one thing you look at in a TVC and you're thinking, it could have gone this way instead of that way.
Yeah,
but
sure.
it's no longer your place since you're
Yeah.
the producer of the
Yeah.
TVC. Your job is to bring people together, shoot the ad, we keep it moving. So for me, TV felt redundant. I could produce with my eyes closed because it's the same thing over and over again. I'll call Mageto to be the DOP. I'll call Woli to be the gaffer. Like it was standard and for a very long time. So for me, theater just constantly makes me feel so alive. Like even right now, I'm still going through the adrenaline of the weekend's show. It takes me at least 3 days to be able to sleep.
Right.
And it's I can't even explain where that comes from, but also having an audience that is constantly reassuring you and telling you how good your work is and saying how much they can't wait for the next one, that is so fulfilling. And I think for me, there wouldn't be a way to get me away from theatre because I really enjoy everything that theatre comes with. It still hasn't made monetary sense as yet, but it's getting there. It's getting there. But the adrenaline and the joy of having an audience and a cast that is so raw, hakuna cut tuchukue tena. Literally. When we get on stage, it's that or nothing. Like
and
that's
something
it.
always goes wrong.
Yes,
Something
yes.
always goes wrong.
And my joy about something going wrong, and when I look at 24 Birds, because 24 Birds is very verbose, there's so many things being said, and I mean the last show was 4 hours, so for 4 hours of people just talking and storytelling, you don't even notice that it's 4 hours when the story is good. So for me, the watching of the actors on stage and still getting the same and even more feelings compared to like 2019 when we staged Tomboya, and now to still cry at the fact that we know Tomboya is gonna die anyway, but the story is so well told that every evening you can hear people sniffling in their comms, and they're like, oh, wacha nikuletee tissue. That's the crew going through the emotions as well. So I think that whole moment is so fulfilling, and there's no way to get over it. There's no way to just walk away and say, I've had enough of theatre.
And for me, it's, especially with 24 Birds, it's the audience that you guys are able to draw in. It almost feels like maandamano ya Gen Z ilianzia 24 Birds. Because 24 Birds, right from 2019, the audience was so politically conscious, and it's like it's a hole full of activists.
Yes, it is.
And the stories you guys tell, and that's just a very important part of our history as Kenya, theatre and politics.
Yes. And I think it's important for people to know that 24 Birds and our Stories Zetu Limited started as a blog. It was an online blog.
How do I know? I do not know that.
So and they had guests who would write on the blog, but they would also constantly write. Jagi, Masido, Ngatia, and Tony, the 4 of them, and they were KU at the time. And then they also started doing poetry, and a guy is called C11, room C11, and they were shooting the poetry in someone's house, and the house number was C11, so they just called it C11. C11. And then they staged a show at Phoenix. I forget the title of that show, but I'll check. But I remember them staging a show at Phoenix, which we could dub the first ever 24 Birds. And they were telling the story of Harry Thuku. And I remember at the time I think it was 2016. I was still deep in television. And I was shooting something for Inoro TV at the time with Tash Mitambo. And the guys at 24 Birds wanted costume from Phoenix. And they were having a really difficult time getting the costume and a prop for a gun. And I remember them reaching out to me. At this point, I don't even know them well. At the time, Abu and Gati are working for Scan Group. And I know them through Scan Group because I was a Twitter influencer at the time. And they're the people who give me work. Right before we started even shooting the pilot. So at the time, they're like, Gadhoni, you know Tash Mitambo, could you please talk to him and ask him if we could get the costumes? And I was actually so far removed from this conversation because to me it was just a phone call. I'm like, yo Tash, these people need this and this. How comes they can't access it? What is going on? That was the first time also I went to Phoenix to watch the show. I had never been to Phoenix before.
It's interesting. You are theater.
Mi sikuwa, and in fact nilikuwa sikuwa yangalia theater and thought this is something I could do.
Yeah.
I remember going to watch Kikuyu shows because I'm a big fan of Kikuyu storytelling. And I remember going to watch Kikuyu shows, and then I got to a point where I was like, I like these shows, but they're not evolving. Like, so if I watch 3 of them, I've watched all of them. The storyline remains the same. And then later coming to learn that most of them are adaptations from the Brits. So it's they're adapted into becoming Kenyanized, really. So 2016, when the blog was happening and they were doing all of these shows at Phoenix, Ngatia was also slowly and constantly building an audience on Twitter, and talking to people on Twitter and giving information about Kenyan history, Kenyan heroes. So slowly by slowly, the people who were following our Twitter also ended up being our main audience on stage when we staged, yes.
That's an interesting piece of history,
Yeah.
That's okay. Yeah, I know in the 70s and 80s in Kenya, like theater was first of all a tool for change.
Yeah.
And I always feel like that when I do come for too early for birth. By them so toka hapo akiwa church.
Unataka change country the same night.
I mean, it's Ngatia. You meet Ngatia every day. He's like that every day.
Yes.
His life.
You know, I've worked, the first time we ever went to watch a show for too early for birth. I think we like took the whole thing. Like you guys, the research, the way you guys write, we ended up working with a huge part of your team.
Yes.
Nakumbuka hiyo ilikuwa always a huge conversation in the writers' team. Like guys, here when you're writing, you're not giving opinion. Just write a story, let the audience decide for themselves. Please, we are not activists here. Ngati wanga hivi. What's the driving? I know for them it came from one history, and then there's the politics and just always putting our country in check. For Crony, what's the theme that drives you?
I think for me as an artist, one thing that formed a turning point for me in how I look at art is there's one director, Sami Mwangi, who directs at Heartstrings. We once put this question to him, like, what's the point? Because every show we would do, he'd keep asking, what's the point of this show? Yes, you're entertaining. Yes, you're making people laugh. Yes, you're doing whatever it is you're doing. But what is the point of this show?
Right.
What are you saying? And again, his explanation was that as a lawyer, we know what you do for the society. As a doctor, we know what you do for the society. As a policeman, we know what you do for the society. As an artist, when there is corruption in the country, what is your role? A policeman will arrest, a judge will give a verdict. As an artist, what then becomes your role?
Bro, what?
So that then...
What's your role?
What's your role? Like the space you're occupying, what are you doing with it? So that eventually, as an artist, I am not going to talk about corruption in the country the same way a lawyer is going to talk about corruption. Because they will go to court, they will file sijui nini. What is my court?
Right.
My stage is my court. I will put the case, I will argue it, both sides of the case, and then I let my audience judge the case. So that then, eventually, this becomes a driving force in every social issue that we see in a society. I borrowed that part. The second part that I borrowed was from one of the veteran directors, Gilbert Lucalia. And he says he feels like the greatest role of an entertainer is to entertain.
Okay.
Do make the social commentary, be politically conscious, do everything you're doing. But if at the end of the day I'm not living, and entertainment is not laughing, entertainment is not... Entertainment is all that packaged together. So that when I'm leaving your auditorium, I am from watching Too Early for Birds, I have known the story of Tomboya, I have been socially charged, I have been politically charged, but I have also been thoroughly entertained.
That's true.
Which is a very important part for the whole process.
Yeah.
So I think for us as Crony, we also come from a background of when we were at Heartstrings, we used to do very political and social commentary plays.
Yeah.
And then we start doing that as well now when we start Crony. But then we start realizing that you are doing it while it's already being done. So what then is your niche in it?
Okay.
Then you realize that you, maybe not by intention, no, maybe not by design, but somehow you always find your style.
Yeah.
You always find your voice just by the virtue of you being you.
Yes.
Eventually utapata tu style yako na eventually utapata style yenye your audience is relating to and your audience is so that then we pushed our social commentary to even our online skits and our the other things we're doing.
Yeah.
I do not have to literally tell you, since us majorly we do comedy.
Yeah.
I will make you laugh, but eventually you should ask yourself, what am I saying?
Yangu hapo kwa number 2 mlimmulika na sasa juu number 2 alienda hivyo, ndio hiyo pia story yenyewe iliisha.
But awaishangi
O number 2 ni wengi.
Yeah, kwani KJ time alikuwa anafanya story ya Mwai Kibaki alikuwa anafikiria Gachagua atawahi kuja, no? He never thought about it. So and I find in our country reality is more absurd than even fiction.
Yeah, it is.
So when you do the fiction, it's an easy sale.
Actually, think
Like jokes zishajiandika.
Yeah.
I think our politicians are funnier than comedians.
They are unbelievably funny.
And for you to know even how that works is if you think about the list of the most famous people in Kenya.
Yeah, politicians.
You will realize our politicians come first.
Yeah.
Probably you'll get
Athletes.
musicians and athletes.
Yeah.
And then you will find actors and others come after.
Yeah.
So that for the artists, you'll be famous for the role, not as the person.
Yeah.
You know Denzel. You know Will Smith.
Yeah.
Then you know the roles.
Yeah.
But in Kenya, you know Papa Shirandula, then you know the person.
The person.
You know Nani, then you know the person. But I feel like the support we are getting locally has increased immensely.
Yes.
Oh yes.
Immensely.
Yes.
I look at Nini, the last time they were doing the run of Tomboya, they were doing the run, we were doing our run, Luanda Magere was doing the run.
Yeah.
And everyone was having sold out shows. Meaning everyone.
There's enough for all of
Yeah.
them.
And I was sitting at a place where we were having this discussion of how do we panga ourselves in a way that so wacha Friday twende to Ali for Birds, Saturday twende Luanda Otero, and then Sunday sasa twende Crony, and people are planning themselves like that.
Yeah.
So it's been an interesting journey, I think, for us as Crony, and especially the comedy space, because I feel like Kenya comedy inakuanga ni kama cheat code.
Ni mashida ndugu yangu. Sasa acha tujicheke tu. But it's a Kenyan thing.
It's a Kenyan thing.
This country
Laughing
could
at our
be
pain.
This country could be burning, but tuko hapo juu ya memes. Tuna create memes, tumeisha. And what you said about just you guys performing and being a mirror to the society, and what you bring to the forefront. We mentioned skits here.
Yes.
So one of the things that also has really gone viral is your conversations with AC,
Yes.
your baby mama.
Yes.
And again, we laugh.
Yes.
But you guys are highlighting a very right now as we're filming this,
Yes.
we in the 16 days of
activism.
activism for gender-based violence.
Yes.
And what you guys highlight is actually a form of
Yes.
gender-based violence.
Yes.
One that we don't talk a lot, which is
Yes.
financial violence.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know, you wanatoanishwa. Yeah.
It's crazy. And you know, when we had been doing skits for a very long time with AC, but now when we were doing this one, we thought it would be a skit, and then for us it turned into something else, because when we were starting we were creating the stories, but the more we went, the more these were people's testimonies.
Yeah. People started suggesting.
Yes. People are giving us stories.
Yeah.
I meet someone, a taxi driver, unakutana na mtu, and the ones you think are most ridiculous, those are the real life story ones.
Yeah.
Mpaka you're like, hey. And now it's even worse that it's not co-parenting alone. Some people are going through the same within a marriage, within a relationship.
Yeah.
So that kind of a thing where people are just, you get to a place where tolerance is non-existent. Munaanza tu kushindana. Sasa, you do not have each other's best interest and yet you're together. So mnashinda mkivurutana, mwingine anatafuta venye atasijui. Like it's always about push and pull. And the thing about co and single parenting is a thing that I think needs more attention than it is getting. Because I feel like the next generation of children are going, watu hiyo watakuwa na enjoy wa shule ati cheki nani ako na wazazi wawili. Cheki nani huyu bado anaishi na baba yake na mama yake. Because that's how and I feel like I am very happy for this side of us that we have awakened of liberation and freedom. That just because there is some things in it, like, you know, the child and things like that, you should not necessarily just have to stay.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we need to balance that with the fact that a family is the foundational unit of any functional society. That then, how do we then make it functional as we go across? So yeah, that's why that was a very important conversation for us. Mimi as a creator and any other creator, I'm sure you guys can attest to it, that we get bored quick. Mimi, after we had done 2 of those clips and they went viral and people were talking about them, I was telling you, we, hii kitu bana, mimi nimechoka. Tunafanya the same thing all over and over again. But every time we meet people, they're like, we want you to keep doing hiyo nini, because every other time you're talking about a different issue and it's coming. I have had so many people coming to me and saying, siku hizi siambiangi baby mama yangu kitu na mfuadianga tu clips. Na mfuadianga tu, then ananiambia, hey, so mimi ukwanga mimi sijasema kitu, wewe ona tu clip.
Bro, ile siku tutasipigwa coffee tao.
That would be it.
Yeah, but also when we started, it started as baby mama drama.
Right.
Then we realized it's not just baby mamas who are dramatic. There's so many men who are out here who are very dramatic as well.
True.
So we had to talk about the same point about how your role as an artist in the society.
My God. I know this is a conversation you speak a lot on, especially on Twitter, because Twitter big wigs. Like, first of all, yung tayo jo. I think shame.
Ina wenyewe.
Yung tayo na wenyewe. Tunasikianga Twitter /X. Hiyo jina X bado.
Bado ingi. Twitter ni Twitter.
KOX identity.
KOX ndio inaweza. You know, I know GBV is something you really talk about, and do you see it that way? Like it's my role as I have this voice, I have this platform, I'm an artist, and this is something very close to me. I need to put it out there.
I speak up about GBV a lot, and especially as a person who survived it. But also it's not my personality. It's I'm excited and I'm actually quite proud of myself, because when I look at the journey of living an abusive marriage and actually walking my truth and finally finding myself and being sat here today, one of the things I like to remind women is that it's possible. It's not the end of your life when you walk away from an abusive partner. It's not the end of life if you have to walk out with your child, but it has to be you who saves you. There'll never be anyone else who comes to save you. And even when I look back at the day when I made the decision, And I made a decision in June and left in August. But between June and August, I was just planning because, okay, I'm leaving. I know I'm leaving, and I'm living with a child who's 6 months old, and I have no job, but I'm leaving no matter what. Because I'd gotten to a point where it had become so bad. I had started to think about, oh, I'd want revenge on this person for the amount of pain and violence they've caused me. And when I started to think like that, I realized it was the wrong place for me to be, because if I'm already thinking about how I want to harm the other person because they've harmed me, then there's no difference between me and them. And so I started to think about, I actually need to go. And I do not want to raise my child in a place where there's this much violence, because then as a girl, even if it was a boy, you do not want your child to grow up seeing this type of violence that is going to affect them in one way or the other. So for me, while I was saving myself, I was also saving my daughter for the future. And constantly I have people, because every once in a while I'll share my story online. And there's so many women who come maybe 3 months later, a year later, and they'll say, Gathoni, I actually left because of you. I left because of your story. I left because of your testimony, and I'm thriving, and thank you, and ABC. So I know that every time I speak up about it, if it can save just one person, it's enough.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely. And this is a conversation I'm finding myself just having very randomly on like every conversation.
Right.
And it's simply because of just walking a journey and learning about women. And we started writing with you, My Empress.
Yes.
And
Suna Journey,
and
then My Empress,
then My Empress.
Yeah.
And I always say My Empress for me was, I went to University of Women because I genuinely didn't know what you guys go through. It's crazy for me, and how common violence is on women especially. I'm like, why isn't this a national, it should be declared a national disaster. The way we at some point to learn about HIV and AIDS, we're like,
I'm not having irresponsible sex.
Yes.
It has to be with my husband.
Yes.
And it has to be with someone I love who has married me, and it has to be protected.
Yes.
Like there were all of these things, and even those Tuju videos just Tuju did too much, but I think it actually helped.
Also single-handedly saved millennials.
It's true.
From
That's true. Because every time you think about it, you're like, if I get gonorrhea, my private parts are going to look like that.
Let me tell you. By the way, you talk to Gen Zs, they're not scared of sex.
No, they're not.
As we were traumatized.
In fact, they're not even attached to the idea of, because I've had sex with this person, I want them to be my person.
No.
For them, I've had sex with this person. I can't wait to have sex with the next person.
One. Like, what do you mean?
So I think it's naturally finding its way in this conversation, and as long as I can speak on it and use my platforms, I'll speak on it, because I don't understand how 1 in 3 women
have been abused,
are being abused, or they will be abused.
And the most unfortunate part is that the people who abuse women are not strangers. It's people women love, or people who love women. Right. It's people in their family, their extended family. It's never a stranger.
True.
It's the boy next door.
True.
It's never someone you didn't know.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I think it's always important for all of us to understand how this conversation is a complex whole. Complex whole in terms of one issue I've always had with people is, do not mix conversations. When it's the same all Black Lives Matter thing all over again.
All lives matter.
When someone is saying that women lives matter, they're not saying men lives do not matter. They're not saying it. It's not a comparison of let's weigh this versus this.
Yeah.
It's just saying we are addressing this alone, because it's crazy.
Yeah.
Personally, Mimi, I didn't know, just like you're saying, I was very ignorant until you sit down with these girls and you realize a girl cannot walk through town peacefully.
Yeah.
Like haizi toka tu anniversary towers mpaka UTC bila wazimu tu fulani zimuonyeshe tu.
Even worse. Hauwezi toka kwa nyumba kama unaenda tao, you have to think about the streets you're going to walk on before you choose the outfit that you're going to wear. So if I'm going to be on the side of Kenya National Theatre, I can dress however I want. But the moment I'm like, I'm going to be on Kenyatta Avenue, Moi Avenue, downtown Nairobi,
River Road,
I have to be dressed like this. Anything that looks like I'm showing my body or I'm showing skin, then it's almost as if it's a reason, an invitation to be abused.
First of all, the words you just said, you've taken words right out of my mouth. I think, let's separate the issues. If we're talking about women, let's stick to that. If you're talking about men, because they have their thing. I mean, men commit, the suicide rates are 6 times higher than women. So there's a problem there. So if we're dealing with men, we're dealing with them. Right now, it's 16 days of activism. We're talking about women. Let's talk about them.
And factually, just like they say, GBV and home, violence happens more to women than men. It's a fact. It's not something someone is coming up to say, sijui mimi na feel tu ni kama. What do you mean na feel tu ni kama? In fact, most of us men need to change from being the people of najua inafanyika but
alifanya nini
hiyo conversation utatuambia siku nyingine. While we are talking about someone who's been murdered, the crime here is murder. It's not about ati alitembea sijui wapi alifanya sijui. Anyway, that's a whole
manze tumeruka another one, but I feel let's talk about it a lot. Wacha watu waisikie mpaka wachoke because it just doesn't make sense at all. Let's go to the business. Both of you, apart from being artists and thespians, run your companies, theater companies. Let's talk about the money. Have you found a sweet spot where it's working, where you can say theater is actually working? Theater can pay my bills. Theater can run my life. I can do what I love and still survive in this Ruto times.
I think for me, I'd say we are finding it. It's better today than it was yesterday. And that's why Gathoni has met our watu wa theater wenyewe. Unatuambia nini? Si tulilipwa saa 2. Si tulikuwa tupewa 150 na lunch. But now for me, the most important part of this conversation is I want theater to move to a place where it's not business for the producers alone. Because I find that art space in Kenya is largely that. It is business for most producers alone. It needs to be business for everyone who's involved in the ecosystem. Everyone who's involved in the chain leading up to the show, everyone who's making the show a success needs to feel proud to be part of the process. And for us, I feel like if the audience supports what you do, and I can speak for Crony because we've had sold out shows before. We've had, like one day we are just seated there rehearsing randomly and then we are told, the second lady of Ghana is here, she wants to see your show. Wow. Like, what do you mean? What do you mean? So she wants to see our show. Hey, I laugh. No, we are paying. We'll pay for all the seats and then she'll come with just like 7 of her people. They're coming to watch the show.
So first of all, wanaelewa Kiswahili. But okay. Anyway,
so now, we had to do a thing of, sometimes it's not ati the stories in Kiswahili ndio maana hata ielewa. Sometimes even the context. Hata ielewa. Nataka kuongelelea story ya nani. Give me someone who's very local, someone would not. Nataka kuongelelea Kasipul. Hata niongee na Kizungu.
That is true.
Hata jua Kasipul. Even if I want to talk about the president, I will talk about it, and since it's a local story, they might not understand what they mean. But it also helps that our African stories are similar across. So hata kama aelewi hii particular one, ata relate na kitu fulani anaelewa huko. So the reason why I'm telling this story is eventually when that money came to us, this money had to be trickled down to everyone in the chain. Because this is not something we had in the plan, in the contract negotiations. So now we had to come back again and say, you know what, kuna hii 5 bob imekuja hapa tukua tumengoja. Let's nini. But also too, the most important part I've learned as a producer in the process is capacity build. You are right now, the Crony is going to do, I think, arguably our biggest show ever since we started. Because we're going to have like 3,000 packs in the place. And regularly our audience is like of what? 300 people sitting at a time. So this is 10 times bigger.
Yeah.
So that means we couldn't have been able to do this if we had not capacity built.
Yeah.
That for that money to start flowing in the way you want. I remember our first show, tulimaliza show, tukambiana, niliwaambia it was sold out, yeah? It was. So, tukakutana, tukaulizana, tulispend wapi na wapi? Imebaki ngapi? Na hall ni how much kubook? So, inamaanisha ndio to book the next show, ni tusalimiane tuende home. Sawa, asanteni ma guys, tupatane next rehearsal.
Wow.
Nothing. Second show, even again. Third show, I think the first time we paid ourselves, it was like, was it 3,000 or something like that? And we were like, wow. And the advantage I'd say with my brothers is we are part of the same dream. Like our first 3,000 ilichoma moto ndani yetu. We were like, kume inaweza lipa. Kume hii kitu next month italeta 5K. Kume hii kitu next month italeta. And before you know it, now it's bringing money you can use to do something.
Right.
Yeah, so as to whether the money is there, it is. As to whether it could be better, it could. Right. And as to how it could be better, we need to capacity build. And this is an all-round capacity building, meaning we as producers, meaning the people, stakeholders, whoever is involved in this thing. Let's capacity build together, yeah.
No, you're just playing on another level. Because I'm like, you've built this whole structure, and I'm like, how do you do it? How do you see these opportunities? How do you see these grants and these sponsors you can work with? Which, yeah.
As a producer of the show, one of my biggest advantage and disadvantage is that I love to dream, and I love to dream big because I love big things. Like, I napenda pesa, I won't lie. Money is one thing that I love so much.
Yeah.
And the only way to have money is to work for the money, right?
Yeah.
So let me take you back to, there's no way to have a conversation about the big audience or the things that we do at Stories A2 and Too Early for Birds without actually giving the flowers to the people who run the company and the production.
Yeah.
But in our company, we have script writers, we have DOPs, we have editors, we have copywriters, we have influencers. We're basically a production company that is endowed in marketing and storytelling,
Right.
which has been our winning combination. Because for me, who will constantly spend my time online, as the person who writes the marketing strategies now for every show that we put out, it means I'm constantly online studying how things are changing for the internet. And I was telling him earlier before we came in how for this whole run, 90% of the audience has been new. Which is almost, it's crazy, but it's also doing something in my brain, because where the day ones, where did we lose them?
Yeah.
But also heavily, I can say that our content has shifted, or our marketing has shifted from being heavily Twitter to being heavily Instagram and TikTok. Yes.
That explains.
Yes,
Yeah.
because we constantly had conversations with our audience on Twitter, we neglected Instagram and TikTok. And Instagram and TikTok didn't become anything until the pandemic. That's when, TikTok and Instagram influencing is not 5 years old in this country.
True.
It's pretty young. So now, one of the things that is my duty as the person who writes the marketing strategy is to ensure that I can tell who is being consumed by who. So my job is to constantly study. I'm like, okay, fine. this person has this type of demographic. So if they attend the show, it means the audience gets to see that this is happening.
Right.
So what I can say, because when we started pushing the show in June, we had 4,000 followers on Instagram. Now we have 12,000.
Ooh.
We had 5 followers on TikTok. Now we have 6,000. So you can tell that the audience is growing, and there's a need, and they're constantly asking for good stories. There's a need for good stories, and so one of the things we've noticed is that, well, we invite when we market and we get this audience, the audience talks about the shows. So what that does is that it creates FOMO, and the fact that no one has watched Too Early for Birds and can explain Too Early for Birds in one word or a sentence. The feedback is, "Neo kitu nini nimetoka kuona?" And the reply is always, "You just have to watch it to understand. There's no way to explain it to you," which is a very big winning combination of how we're trying to grow our audience. Because if today I told you, buy shoes from Nani, they sell really good shoes, because I'm your friend, you already trust my opinion. So if I say, let's go watch Nick Quach's show, the fact that word of mouth from a person you trust is the best marketing you can ever get.
For sure.
So for the 90% of new audience that we have, one of the things they've done is that they've incorporated their parents. So you'll see someone who'll say, "Oh, I bought tickets, but I'm not able to come, but my parents will come." Because these stories are not just relevant to the younger generation, they're also relevant to our parents. And to have, for example, Mohini, who's the woman who owned the pharmacy, and she was friends with Mboya, and she was there the day Mboya was shot. And one of the interviews and stories she's given is that when stories are told about Tomboya, is that no one mentions her.
That is true.
But in our show, we constantly mention her, and we say that they were friends, and we show how even she had tried to talk to him to stay in the shop longer, and then they walk out together, and then he's shot. And even the ridiculousness of it is that when she came to watch the show, one of the things she says is, the previous shows, Mboya is in a suit when he's shot, but on the show, when the show she watched, and she was like, in fact, Mboya, the day Mboya was shot, he was wearing a brown leather jacket. She's gonna be 90 next year.
Wow.
And she talks about Mboya and cries.
Wow.
That's how much attached she was to Mboya and how much Mboya meant to her. So we had to also change the costuming going forward. And we're like,
let's get it
brown leather jacket, and outside the pharmacy they're talking, and Mboya is short, and then the rest continues. So for us to be able to not just reach an audience that will fill up the auditorium, but to reach an audience that includes the people whose stories we're telling is magical. It's like, that's not something money can buy. Yes. So I'm glad to say, Too Early for Birds, with the grace of the audience, we are able to constantly be able to pay the bills and to break even, and sometimes make profit.
Right.
Yes. So sometimes you'll sell out, and it's not necessarily that you've done well financially. One of the things we do at Storyzetu is to, when we were setting out in the beginning, one of the things we knew we wanted to do is to always pay the artist right. So we've constantly changed the numbers, and changing the numbers means then the budget gets steeper. So, and if the budget gets steeper, it means then the ticket prices have to go a little bit higher to be able to accommodate all of these bills that we have to pay. But I can say with my chest that we pay artists well, and the dream is to pay even better. Yes.
It's amazing.
I'm always curious if the people who preceded us thought of art in this way as a business, because that's the people, I talk to you guys nowadays.
Yeah.
I'm like, you guys, we're thinking like businessmen.
Yes, because that's what we are. And
Yeah.
art is business.
It is.
Entertainment is business.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So you just mentioned TikTok and Instagram, and I know we're living in this social media time. So there's so much content being generated on social media. There's so much content being generated for TV and film. What is it doing to the theater scene? Are the theater numbers going down or up?
They're going up. They're definitely going up. They're definitely going up. And the audience is now curious. That after I watched Wally for Birds, what else is going on in the theater industry? Kit Fest wrapped like 2 weeks ago. The Kenya International Theatre Festival.
Thank you.
And the Kenya International Theatre Festival hosted up to 15 countries from all over the world, staging different stories. And the fact that that is able to happen in this economy and in this atmosphere of theatre tells me that there is enough, that there's going to be such great growth for theatre in the next 5 years.
Yeah.
Because there's work being done, and it's work that you can see, and people are actually ready and willing. So we always just have to be putting work out so that the audience that's asking for it, if Tuali for Birds is not staging, because it takes 6 months to put out a show. From the research to the writing to the auditioning, rehearsals to putting the show out, it takes us 6 months. So in the 6 months, who else is on stage and what are they doing? There's already a ready audience that's not just watching Too Early for Birds. Because if you watch Too Early for Birds, you will want to know what else is happening in theatre.
That is true.
So as long as this audience exists for Too Early for Birds, it exists for Kinanik as well. It exists for Queva. It exists for every other production house that exists.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, it's it happened the same way with film. Okay, COVID is what really killed people going to cinemas. But before COVID, people said, "Oof." With Netflix, the way it's moving, people are going to stop going to cinemas. But it was the other way around. In fact, leading to 2018, 2019 Apple, that's when we saw Akina Marvel, the Avengers breaking records for Titanic. And it's because the more people watch the quality on Netflix, they actually appreciated quality, and so they appreciated going to the cinemas as well.
And I think people look at them as competitive, and yet they are complementary. You would think that social media is coming to replace traditional forms of entertainment, and yet the two can complement each other very well. I tell people, for Crony, we only sell our shows online. People ask us, how are people coming, how are you selling out shows? They're like, simple, online. Hakuna kitu ingine. Maybe you eventually incorporate other things, like you're having billboards, you're having newspapers, media tour and whatnot. But your principal target audience is online.
Right.
And I feel like this is the shift for everyone, not just art alone. The doctor is now online. The lawyer is now online. So that now I'm able to, you speak to CEOs, you know this, that now they find the need to talk to people outside their spaces of comfort. So now becomes the need for, the CEOs to coming on this show to talk about.
Inabidi wa dance TikTok mtu yangu biz.
Let me also add the importance of handing over to the next generation.
Yes.
Of audience. So when I think about myself being 39, I also have to think about the person who's 29 and the person who's 19. The person who's 19, who's probably just about to join campus or is in campus, needs to know that theatre is happening and this is how it's happening. Then there's the person who's 29 or between the age of 26 and 29 who has some disposable income but has never experienced theatre. Well, we have 90% of a new audience at Too Early for Birds. We also have another bigger demographic that has never seen a theatre show. So, and some of the reviews we were getting were like, my first time watching a theatre show, and I would do it again. So and that's an audience of 20-something-year-olds, 24, 25, 26. People who still have disposable, they have disposable incomes, they don't have families. So they're not thinking about, mtoto wangu atakula nini, ama how am I going to pay school fees? They're just thinking about, they can go to the club, they can buy themselves nice clothes, but they can also go to Blanket, but they can also see a theater show. Yes. So I think it's very important, even as we produce all of these things, we have to constantly think about the next generation that's coming. Because then how does the infrastructure continue to grow if the next generation is not aware that there's an infrastructure that we're building? Then the 19, 20-year-olds, we can be able to do, say, the campus drama festivals. We can be able to get the actors from there and have them on stage for these shows, or mentor them into knowing that there is an industry that exists, and it actually makes money, and you can bring in your raw talent, and grow this and continue to grow this thing. So it's important that, yes, as a 39-year-old, I can afford to buy a Twirly for Birds ticket, but it's very important that the next generation also, because I'll get to a point where I'm like, these are just the specific things I can go watch. But then the younger person has the bandwidth to even be out every other weekend, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, to the club, to a theater show, to a concert, to Blankets, and the weekend is done, right? And they've spent maybe in ticket sales to an amount of, say, 15K and above. And they're okay with it because the quality of entertainment is worth that amount of money or even more. So even as we market and as we talk to audiences, it's important to talk to the people that we already have, but it's very important to keep reaching out to new audiences and the younger audiences. Yes.
Oof. Hey, the jewels. Yo. Hey. Yo.
Gems are dropping.
It's the 44 juice.
Yo, it's the 44 juice.
Yes.
It's wow, hata imepotea. Umesema 44 juice.
No, but I wanted to add something to what you are also saying. That I feel like especially space for us who are already practitioners, that we complement each other in ways we do not know. That one question I get consistently from our audience is, where can I watch things like this? Because, for example, maybe I put up one show in 3 months. But the audience is someone, he does not drink, he does not go to Sujunini, he does not go to parties. He likes this kind of entertainment. So he's like, I do not want to be going to the movies all the time. And I love this form. Where can I watch it? I'm not putting up a show every week. So the person who's putting up a show next week will benefit from my bringing this person into the industry. And people think that theater is a new form of art in Kenya.
It is the
theater. I was shocked when I went to the National Theatre and read the history of theater in Kenya. That Kitambo in Kenya, there was theater for the elite, which used to happen at KNT and the Professional Center. And then there was community theater. Community theater was the most popular form of communication in this country. They would put up shows next to the lakes. They would put up shows next under the trees at the barazas. They would put up that's how social halls sprang up. So that then we can have these performances everywhere. I feel like we went back to centralizing entertainment. And maybe that's why we lost it. Maybe it went through the phase of PR during that time when we were fighting the government. The government
was like, shauri yenyu, umetupiga.
During the time of we were Thiongo, they killed theater again. Because they were like, oh, hii ndio mnatumia kutupiga. Because social media, theater was the social media of back then. So now we are trying to bring that back. And we are saying, now take shows to the people.
Mtafanya tena tupigwe tena.
No, but you see, hata ukipigwa, it is through this kupigwa ndio you eventually turn out in the right side of things. That even the capacity building, I dream of a time when we will eventually have government as collaborators in our process and not the ops.
Yeah.
As Gen Zs wanawaita.
Yeah.
Because eventually it gets to a place where you need, after the capacity building has been done, now you can put up a show in Marsabit.
Yeah.
You can, and
Oh man.
And those budgets exist. I know that those budgets exist, and because when I read the budgets allocated for the sports, gender, culture, and all of those stuff, there is a budget for these things and for growing the industries. And it's ridiculous because when I think about what he's saying, we, for the film side of things, we had Watoto Kaeni Chini, which would happen would happen in the hood.
Yes.
And the truck would come.
Yes.
And would watch the movies.
Yes.
We'll finish watching the movies and we go back home.
Yep.
And where the movies were happening was not far away from where we lived.
Yes.
True.
So your parents were okay with you going. You know the film is 2 hours. You're gonna watch it, finish, and go home.
Yes.
So we already grew up with an entertainment culture.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then we killed it.
Yeah.
So now it's our job to bring back all of those things. Watoto Kaeni Chini. After you guys are done with your film.
Yeah.
Yes.
I imagine if there was a way to take it to Mashinani and have just the children watching it, then it changes something, not just for the audience that understands, but the audience that's coming next. Yeah.
Absolutely.
A culture is being created both for the performer and the consumer.
Yes.
100%.
Yes.
And what you guys, both of you have said is so true. When we did Click Click Bang and then we went around the country showcasing it, we were getting audiences telling us the same thing.
Yeah.
This is my first time ever in
Watching
a cinema
a film,
hall,
in
a theater, a cinema theater.
Yeah.
And then they were like, hiya. So there's more to a Friday night than clubbing.
Yeah.
Because you go to a city like Nakuru. Nakuru is a whole city. It does not have a single cinema hall.
Can you imagine?
A whole city.
Can you imagine?
So, and the only form of entertainment on a Friday night or on a weekend night is clubbing. Not everyone subscribes to that. So, now if, and the government is always, we need to create employment for young people. Man, if you just build the infrastructure.
Yes.
Have a KNT in every county.
Yes.
Have 5 in Nairobi.
Yes.
Have in the urban cities.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, young people will create employment.
Yeah.
Because every weekend there'll be a theater troupe that's showcasing a play.
Yes.
And there's so many people earning from it.
Yes.
I think the creative economy is the biggest employer, and it can employ well over close to 50% of our population.
It's true.
Yeah.
It's very true.
Yeah.
Yeah, because let me take you back to last year when I was doing something called County Theatre Fiesta. County Theatre Fiesta is under the Kenya International Theatre Festival.
Right.
And we had different practitioners go all over the country in different counties teaching theatre. But one of the things that stood out for me when I looked at the infrastructure when it comes to social halls or theatre spaces, when I look at Mombasa, for example, the theatre that exists, the little theatre in Mombasa, sits 110 people. And it's on a space that could get an auditorium that could seat even 500 or 1,000 people. Yeah. So I think it's also important for the government to reevaluate and overhaul all of these spaces so that when we say we're going to capacity build theatre in Mombasa, when we do actually build and it changes and there's an audience to watch the shows, then there's no space. It means we're not going to grow. So if we're saying the little theatre is the only theatre we have in Mombasa that's functional and it sits 100 people, does that mean then we have to do shows every day for the theatre to continue sustaining itself? Like there has to be, the government also now has to start building infrastructure that helps grow the product.
Oh, yes.
When I look at Kiambu, we went to Kiambu town and we had Kiambu Social Hall. It has one bulb that works. And it's a beautiful big space. Okay?
Yeah.
I can't remember that. It doesn't look like it's ever been painted in its lifetime. It looks like the last paintwork that was done was maybe like 30 years ago. The stage is beautiful, like, and it's big. Like, if you put seats in there, at least 800 people would sit there comfortably. Iko Kiambutawan.
My God.
But it's in such bad shape.
Yeah.
So you can't do anything in it. You'd have to bring in your own, you have to rig your own lights, rig your own sound. So even as we think about all of these things and as we want growth for theatre and for film, the government also has to be serious about it and say, okay, fine, we have an auditorium in every county that seats at least 500 people. Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I used to love what formerly Dr. Ezekiel Mutua used to do when he was at Nairobi Cinema, where you protect artistic space for artists. Because if you don't do it, corporate start to take over. Because an artist depends on the proceeds of a show for them to be able to create and pay for the next show. But there is a company that is already established that could have an event there every single day.
That is true.
So if you don't protect that space for the artist and say, if there will be a show here, we will not hire it out.
Yes.
It becomes part of, you know, the incentives that we get, like the way theatre charges lesser for performing artists than corporate events. It eventually acts as an incentive. And it's not about, I remember when the former president working with the Nairobi Metropolitan thing, the general, they did not build new hospitals in Nairobi.
No.
They worked on the old ones, the existing ones.
Do
Capacity on the existing ones.
Yeah.
Maybe that's a good place to start, because most of these counties, you find that they might not have a proper theatre, but they have a place where performance happens.
Yes.
In one way or another. So that community theatre, build it, give it some sort of capacity. I mean, Wakio, who you were with in the process, was telling me how you go to counties and performers are struggling to ask churches for spaces to perform. Sikumeni altar tafadhali ndio tuwekeshwa hapa kwa madhabahu.
Mnataka kuguza madhabahu.
And that's crazy. Eventually that becomes very hard for them. And it's not lost on us that the intertwinement of culture and art is very it's a crucial part of the process.
Preservation of culture.
Exactly.
Our songs, our language, everything. This goes with arts. Oof.
So that we are not just doing it just for just. We're also doing it just both as a form of it. You know, there's a very crucial thing someone said during Corona times. To let the world remember that when everything was shut down, all of you turned to art.
Art actually
Everyone
sustained everyone.
Oh yes.
Everyone was kept sane by art. You were either watching a movie, listening to music, doing
or
content, something.
Oof. I wish we were ending the show on that point, but it's okay. 10 to 20 years from now, how does theatre look like for you guys? Because I attended some stage performances where in LA. Bro, these people, it's a theater performance. Person land ndege kwa stage. Ndege ukweli. Kuna explosions. You know, Americans are crazy with guns. I mean, they have guns and explosions. Like, this is a play. You know.
So for me, when I think about it, and this is what we've already started doing at Tuole for Bads, is the dream is to be able to stage a show monthly. And when I say monthly, I mean like for the month there's a show running in the auditorium every weekend, Thursday to Sunday. Like there's a show. That whole month there's a show running, and there's an audience present to fill the auditoriums. And 10 years for me is a long time. I think this is a dream we can achieve in 5 years. As long as we keep applying pressure, we keep reminding the audience that it exists and we're working on it. And they actually come and see it exists and it's something that they like. They will constantly come back. They will constantly tell people about it. So for me, in the next 5 years, I hope we can be able to have a bigger audience in theatre. To just sustain the business of theatre.
Okay.
chart a path. For me, it's important for me in two ways. I'm thinking about, like she said, the 19-year-old as an audience, but I'm also thinking about the 19-year-old actor. And one of the biggest challenges we've had as a country is, and sometimes we have arguments about it with veterans who've been there before, that where is the path, guys? Mlipita kwa giza, sawa mlilipo 150. Wapi njia nyuma yenyu? Wapi njia? Mbona nyinyi mlilipo 150 na mimi bado nalipo 150?
Thank you.
Wapi njia? I think that's a very important thing for us, to anyone in any industry, to make sure that those who are coming after you find a path behind you.
Yeah.
And
a bright path.
Yes.
Not just a path.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that one day you say, I am doing this because Nani was that's the importance of what I was telling you before.
Yeah.
That it had to be you guys doing what you were doing to inspire others to do what they do. To inspire us to do what we are doing. So that us, after we've done what we have done, we can also inspire others to also do the same or better. Yeah, right. Absolutely better. So that eventually the only way we get to Kuland Chopper kwa stage is when the path is clearer. When your dad creates a path, you will always surpass the path the dad created. Wow. So that means that you do not need to talk about the dream. The dream will be a byproduct of the path.
Yeah.
You create the path. The choppers will land on stage.
You guys are speaking to my soul.
And let me add. Yeah. For a very long time, when you were an artist, say an actor, one of the things the older generation would ask, or even our age mates, oh, you're an actor. What else do you do?
Yeah.
And now I can say with my chest that I'm an actor, or I'm a scriptwriter, or I'm a content creator, or I'm a producer, and stand on it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, it's just saying it is standing on business.
Right.
It's no longer by the way. And the only other way to make sure that the artistry is cemented as a concrete career path is to continue to grow it.
Yeah.
But the only way to grow it is to continue to pull the audience in, because those are our first sponsors. Those are the people who actually grow the business.
That's true.
And to be able to have the audience come back over and over again, then we win.
Oh,
whether the government comes in or not.
Yeah.
We win.
How have you guys, because what you guys are saying nowadays, I tell my crew that anyone I meet in the industry, I tell them that, how have you guys made peace with the fact that we are not the generation that will benefit from the arts? Like, richly benefit.
Yeah.
But the next generation does not get to the next level unless we go through this. Yeah, because we are the generation that will make the government invest in infrastructure. Because we will prove to them that, look, this is a market, invest here.
Yes.
We will do all the donkey work.
Yes.
Yeah.
We are not the guys who will get paid for it.
Yeah.
How have you guys made peace with that?
I think sorry.
It's okay. But for me, I'm actually absolutely okay with it. That I know my daughter will be 15 next month. In January will be 15.
Good job.
I know for her, she's already experienced the industry in some way.
Yes.
And I take her to the process of rehearsals and staging. She's there, she sees it. And she's very interested to get back on screen or be on stage. But for me to show her a sold out show constantly tells me that she can believe in the dream because she can see me do it. And the fact that by the time she decides to become a producer or a director or whatever she decides to become after school will be a path I've already made for her. And I'm okay with it because as an artist, one of the things we hate the most is suffering. Artists hate to suffer. One of the reasons also artists quote unquote die poor is because there is no infrastructure. We don't have guilds. The barely hold together. But by the time my daughter is getting into the industry, what Peter Kawa is working on right now as the chairman of the guild means that Milan will come and find a guild that's working because Kawa is hell-bent on making sure that guild works. So, and it's actually us who have to do the work, because the people ahead of us, the Ojwangs, the Mama Kayais, the Naomi Kamaus, have done their part, but also they're from a different generation. Then we have us who are in the generation of people who can tell stories, but also have an access to the internet and know how the internet works. So we're constantly building so that when our children come and the next artists come, we have actually built something substantial. And for me, there's nothing else I want more than to be able to have built so that the next generation doesn't suffer. And the next generation can be able to come to us and ask. They can be able to access us and say, Philo, Gadoni, and Kwach, we want to collaborate. This is the work we've done so far. And we think this is where you fit in, or this is where you come in to make the process even more successful. So for us to just build the infrastructure is enough, but to also keep our doors open so that the next generation knows that they can access us to continue to build.
Love it.
The Wright brothers are not the ones who are making money from airplanes.
That is true.
They built them,
Yes.
but they are not the ones who are making money from it.
Everyone
who built something, some of them went ahead to benefit, yes, but the world benefited in a larger way than their own personal benefit. Gadoni might make all the money she might doing her shows now, but the fundamental path she's leaving behind is what will be important to the generation that comes after her. That for her, I feel like the legacy burden is a burden that could weigh you down if you keep it active in your mind all the time. Do not struggle to leave a legacy. Struggle to do the right thing. The legacy will create itself. You know, that you just make the right moves. Phil did not have to come to me and say, so in a masterclass, mkitaka kujenga cinema, jengeni cinema, mweke kwa website, watu walipie link, alafu, no, you just do it. You just do it. Then the rest of the industry will see, oh, so hii pia ndiyo iko. So that now this is a distribution channel I had not thought exists. I think for me that's the solace I get, that there is no pressure in trying to build a legacy. Do not build a legacy. Hakuna legacy unataka kuacha. The legacy will create itself around you. That as long as wewe unafanya tu the right thing. Sisi sahi inaweza kosa kutu. That's why I think the old guys also feel some sort of pressure when they see the youngins making money, because they're like, we crawled.
We suffered.
We crawled so that you guys can walk. And it's true. They did. Because back then they fought for this space. There are people who literally fought for performance spaces to not be turned into government offices and whatnot. So these are people who fought for the process. So that's why I'm saying I am not worried that I'll not be the ones to part of the team that will reap the benefits. But I know, because the child tomorrow, unajua sisi uongelelea watu watakam ni kama ni ma stranger. Au maakta watakam, they are our children. I have had the benefit of working with Esther Kahua and her daughter Makena Kahua together. And you look at them and you're like, she must be happy that she kept in it so that her daughter is able to find a working ecosystem. Not at a work ecosystem in terms of that this process is working, just a network. So that mimi nikikuja nini atakuja kwetu atuambie niaje, oh by the way kuna ule dota wangu anaitwa nani worked, oh mlete akuje. So that easily makes the way of the younger one easier. So mimi I think hiyo ndio kitu inanipatia.
Watu wangu najua tunaweza piga story for 5 hours. So you know, and for me this was just I feel empty after this conversation, and it's very personal to me. And I hope guys will enjoy it. If they don't, But thank you so much for creating time. I know you just wrapped a show. Manze hatujapumzika. You have a show in like 2 weeks, so nimekuwa rehearsal.
Yes.
Manze, but thank you so much for creating time. And I hope we can continue having more and more of these conversations. Yeah, this has been Phil Moderates. Like I said, here we'll just be having random conversations, round tables, and yeah, if we learn something, we learn together. Until next time.